Hi, friends. Welcome to 5 Minute Sunday School. Our question today is, what should I say to someone who is grieving? Our question came to us from an article in the Anniston Star, as many of them have, and we read through John MacDonald, a Catholic priest, response to this question. And some of the thoughtful points in his article was that in their parish they focus on the word accompaniment with people who do ministry with those who are grieving, and that emphasizes not so much what to say, but on simply being present. McDonald does share that sometimes in our nervousness or feelings of discomfort about what to say to the grieving, we sometimes say things about God that kind of paint God as being arbitrary or uncaring. Things like, well, God just needed another angel, or God just lets these things happen sometimes. Um, he goes on to give several examples of characters in Scripture who provide excellent ministry of accompaniment, of being there with people who are grieving. We also looked at an article that I had come across in the Los Angeles Times written by Susan Silk, who's a clinical psychologist, and Barry Goldman, a professional negotiator, in which they use this kind of concentric circle model to help us navigate what not to say and who not to say it to whom not to say it. And you can see on the concentric circles here that the grieving person is kind of at the center of this bullseye target, and each concentric circle out represents circles of care and concern for the person and relative to how close they are to that person. And so the next concentric circle out might be a spouse or family, and then out from that, significant friends, and then colleagues, and broader community beyond that. Uh, and in their article, they talk about experiences when people said things to them or their loved ones that just were hurtful in different ways. Maybe one example was someone just saying how rough someone looked and how it made them uncomfortable. And that's a natural response that one can have when maybe visiting someone in a hospital who's gone through some difficult things. But what they say is using this concentric circle model, it's okay to dump out, meaning um, if you are in the center, you can say whatever you want to the outer circles. You can complain, so basically have carte blanche to say what you want. But if you're talking to someone closer to the center, you need to only use words of comfort and restrict what you say. Anything about yourself or your own feelings about the matter beyond those that might be comforting, reserve that to talking to people outside of where you sit on those concentric circles. And our class found that to be a very helpful model to avoid saying things that are kind of inappropriate. I also shared some other thoughts that I had with the class, and first was just to encourage people, whenever possible, go to funerals and visitations. People just find that meaningful, and it helps the family just to feel the love and care and concern that the community had for their loved one. It has seemed to me that people often want to talk about their loved ones, and sometimes just gentle questions about their life can help facilitate that. And so, one of the best gifts we can give people isn't saying anything at all, but simply listening and being present to be able to listen. And that may take a question or two sometimes. Um, I think sometimes grieving people themselves express bad theology. They may use those trite phrases like God needed an angel or something like that. And I think it's important to remember that in these times of high stress and anxiety, people will often default to just things they've heard, axioms, and so forth that if they thought more deeply about, they might not say them. But remember, this just isn't the time to correct people's theology, and it's hard to know what might be behind those sayings. And so I would encourage you just to be there and resist the urge to correct. Um, I think sharing an interaction or experience you've had with a deceased person with their loved ones is often something received as a gift, particularly when it might be something that the surviving family may not know about. I think you can always fall back on simple Rogerian listening techniques, and that's when you simply just repeat what someone has said in your own words back to them. That lets them know that they've been heard. Be aware that grieving can persist for a long time, and so I wouldn't say things like, oh, "You need to let that go," or anything like that. That people can get stuck in grief, but that's not our job as kind of family and friends. That's the work of therapists, and so just be aware grief persists, and things like anniversaries and significant dates years into the future will continue to be difficult for those who are experiencing grief. Um, Also, children can be overlooked very easily in situations of grief, and often they won't know how to put into words what they're thinking or feeling, and so sometimes gentle play alongside of a child, even using puppets or figures, can offer opportunities for children to speak in ways that maybe they weren't um, prepared to consciously do, but may just come out. And so be there for the kids too. Um, well, friends, if you've lost someone that you care about deeply, I'd be interested to hear what was most helpful to you, what things maybe weren't so helpful. Um, that's all we have for today. Next week, we're going to be looking at the question of is death inherently bad? I hope that you'll join us. Thanks so much.